I told you that I was diagnosed with diabetes. It's been many years ago now, back in 1991. And I set a goal that then, not that moment, but soon, that I wanted to run a marathon. And I wanted to run it with diabetes. And so I decided I was going to run a marathon in Hawaii for the American Diabetes Association. I figured if I'm going to run 26.2 miles, I might as well do it in a place that I want to be when I finish. So I'm running this marathon in Hawaii. I'm raising money for the American Diabetes Association, and it was 26.2 of the hardest miles I'd ever done in my life because I'd never run a marathon before. And I finished that marathon, and I'm at the finish line, and it's about 900 degrees in Hawaii, and I'm laying there at the finish line, and I feel absolutely miserable and ecstatic. As I'm sitting there kind of moaning in my glory and satisfaction, there's another guy that's kind of sitting over there right next to me, and this wise guy says, "You know, this is where they run the Ironman Triathlete. Those guys swim 2.5 miles out there in the ocean. They bike 112 miles up there to Hawaii, and then they run this marathon." And I sat there and leaned over to him, and I threw up. What kind of freak of fitness runs a marathon after swimming 2.5 miles, biking 112 miles, and who can do that with diabetes? But what did I do? I now had a new goal. And I had a goal with a lot of failure potential. I'm going to now do the Ironman. I'm going to do the Ironman with diabetes. And so for 2 years, I had another goal, an even much higher goal than just doing a marathon. And for 2 years, I worked, and I did shorter triathlons, and I ran other marathons, and I did half marathons, and I did half Ironman triathlons, until finally I worked up to that day that I did my very first Ironman triathlon. And I was very proud of myself. I am now an Ironman. So I'm sitting there at the banquet of that Ironman, my first one, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not feeling pretty good. I'm feeling darn good because I am an Ironman. And then the announcer starts calling out the people who had finished tops in their age groups and qualified for the World Championships. And I started hearing that these people had done the Ironman 2 hours faster than I did. 2 hours. I mean, they weren't even in the same race that I was in. I mean, I'm suddenly starting to feel like the tinfoil man. I mean, where were they? I mean, what kind of nut can do that? I about lost a lung and puked a kidney to do it in the time that I did it, and they did it in 2 hours faster than I did. But right then, I had another goal. I'm going to be one of those guys. I'm going to do the Ironman. I'm going to shave 2 hours off my time. I'm going to be one of those people up there, and I'm going to do it with diabetes, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. So for 2 years, I worked for that goal. I had a new goal. And what did I do? I had to hire a coach because I couldn't do it the same way I'd been doing it before. I had a much higher goal. That one I kind of did on my own. But that wasn't good enough now. I hired a coach. I got a better bike. I learned how to swim better. I took swim technique lessons. I did strength training. I worked on different aspects of my technique and my body to get myself that much better because I was going to be competing with the best in the world. I didn't do things the way I'd been doing it before, certainly not the way I did my first marathon and certainly not the way I did my first Ironman. Until finally, 2 years later, I'm in that Ironman that I was telling you about earlier, the one where I left you at mile 13 of the marathon, mile 127 of the Ironman, and I am ready to cross the finish line 2 hours faster than I did 2 years ago in my very first one. So what's my point here? The principle is if you set a goal with failure potential, a goal that's beyond your grasp,